Monkeys found kidnapping other species of monkeys, chimps putting blades of grass in their ears and their butts, and deep in tropical forests, a fungus that hijacks ants' minds, turning them into zombies. These are animal behaviors that terrified scientists. On a small island in Panama, scientists caught something really strange on camera. Capuchin monkeys carrying baby howler monkeys. Between 2022 and 2023, researchers documented at least 11 cases of these monkey kidnappings. Zoe Goldsboro, a behavioral ecologist at the Max Planck Institute, said, "This was very much a shocking finding. We've not seen anything like this in the animal kingdom." The cameras recorded capuchins walking around and pounding stone tools while the tiny howlers clung to their backs. The actual abductions were not caught on film. They probably happened up in the trees where the howlers spend most of their time. And as for why this was happening, they don't know. Sadly though, most of the infant howlers ended up dying. Probably from starvation because they were too young to be weaned and weren't returned to their mothers. Margaret Crowfoot, co-author of the study, said, "A hopeful part of me wants to believe some escaped and went back to their mothers, but we don't know." At a chimpanzee sanctuary in Zambia, something weird started to happen. Some of the chimps began sticking blades of grass into their ears, and even stranger, a few started putting them in their butts. Researchers first noticed the odd trend in 2010. The female chimp named Julie. She would repeatedly stick grass in her ear and just let it hang there. Other chimps in her group started copying her, and before long, it was just a thing. Julie died in 2013, but the trend did not die with her. A few chimps kept it going, including her son. Then in 2023, another group at the same sanctuary picked up the habit, but they added a twist to it. They put the grass in their rear ends. Scientists think this may have originally come from chimps watching their human caretakers. Edwin van Leeuwen, who led the study, said these caretakers reported that they sometimes put a blade of grass or matchstick in their own ears to clean them. By copying someone else's behavior, you show that you notice and maybe even like that individual. So it might help strengthen social bonds and create a sense of belonging with the group, just like it does in humans. Back in 2014, researchers detected a bizarre underwater sound near the Mariana Trench. They called it the Biotwang. It didn't sound like anything they'd heard before. It starts with this deep moan and then hits this weird, twangy, metallic squeak. Scientists spent years trying to figure out who was making it because it didn't match any known whale calls. First, they guessed it was some baleen whale, but the high-frequency twang was all wrong. And unlike typical mating calls that show up seasonally, this sound popped up year-round. Then in 2018, NOAA scientists spotted bride's whales in the Mariana Archipelago while recording underwater sounds. Out of 10 sightings, 9 times they heard the exact biotwang. Finally knew where it was coming from, and they used AI tools to comb through over 200,000 hours of recordings, analyzing the frequencies, confirming that these calls are mostly heard in the western North Pacific, near the Mariana Archipelago and Wake Island. They also found that the number of biotwang calls changes with the environment. In some years, when the waters get unusually warm, the calls spike, but in cooler years, they almost disappear. In the forests of Oahu, Hawaii, scientists have found a caterpillar they've nicknamed the bone collector. These things don't just eat insects, they wear them. Caterpillar builds a casing out of dead bugs and spider parts, letting it blend perfectly into spider webs. That way, it can sneak past the very spiders that should be hunting it. And it works. Dr. Daniel Rubinoff of the University of Hawaii has studied the species since 2008. His team has only found 62 specimens in over 150 surveys, all within a single forested mountain range of just 15 square kilometers. Caterpillars stick exclusively to using insect and spider exoskeletons for their cases, ignoring natural materials like leaves or bark. They're also cannibalistic. In the lab, researchers watched one caterpillar tear into another's case and eat it. Entomologist Dr. David Wagner called the relationship with spiders one of, quote, nature's most improbable connections, since the caterpillar depends entirely on living alongside a creature that could easily kill it. You might think chimps are cute and playful, but some of them are straight up brutal. Researchers have actually watched as entire chimp tribes wage war against neighboring groups. Not small scuffles over food, I mean like coordinated attacks, ending in death sometimes. Harvard's Richard Wrangham, in his book Demonic Males, Apes and the Origins of Human Violence, says it could very likely be genetic. He argues that since humans and chimps are such close relatives, if one species has a tendency for war, maybe the other does as well. But not everyone buys that. Robert Sussman and Joshua Marshak from Washington University in St. Louis think logging and deforestation could be pushing chimps into more aggressive behavior. Even well-meaning feeding programs might be making things worse. Chimps may fight over special foods they wouldn't normally encounter in the wild. Honestly, it sounds like BS to me. I gotta say, nature is just violent sometimes. I mean, a lot of people have this idea, all animals, they're just living in perfect harmony. It's like a Disney movie out there. I mean, why would that be the case? Especially with chimps. They're so closely related to us. I mean, why would they just not be violent pricks sometimes? The truth is, no one really knows why chimps wage these wars. And they can't really get too close to study them in detail because, as Richard Wrangham put it, if we get too close, we risk our faces becoming chimp dinner. Down in the deep ocean, there's a worm that looks like it belongs on a psychedelic album cover, the Elvis Worm. These are pretty aggressive worms. Researchers have seen them biting chunks out of each other's scales. No one is entirely sure why they fight. Leading guesses are pretty standard: competition for territory, mates, or food. It's pretty weird though, because aggression like this is pretty rare with other deep sea worms. Most of these animals lead pretty solitary, boring lives. They just live off whatever drifts down from the surface, but these things have scales and teeth strong enough to shred each other. Scientists first noticed the fights while studying specimens collected from hydrothermal vents. They were pretty taken aback. One researcher described watching a pair of these worms latch onto each other and bite like tiny armored gladiators. Some frogs don't just hide, they disappear in plain sight. Certain species have evolved to mimic inanimate objects like bird droppings, dead leaves, or small twigs. To predators, they just don't look alive at all. Scientists have documented frogs pausing perfectly still, sometimes for hours, colors and patterns blending seamlessly into their surroundings. Frogs that happened to blend in better were the ones that didn't get eaten, so they lived long enough to pass on those traits, and after who knows how many generations, they ended up looking so much like bird poop that it's almost impossible to tell the difference. Turns out cows aren't just aimlessly wandering around. Studies found that when they're eating or resting, they actually line up with the Earth's magnetic field, usually facing north or south. Scientists checked aerial and satellite images of herds all over the world and saw the same thing happening. No one really knows why they do this. Some think cows might be able to sense the planet's magnetic field, kind of like how birds or sea turtles navigate during migration. But it's weird, they seem to be tuned into something that we are not. Ophiocordyceps is a fungus that doesn't just kill ants, it takes over their bodies and minds. Affected ants will leave their colonies and climb up plants. Once they reach the right height, they bite down with what scientists call a death grip, and the fungus grows out of their bodies, spreading spores to infect the next ant that passes by. Places where this happens are often called graveyards, because dozens of ants can be found frozen like this in one spot. The fungus basically hijacks the ant's brain, forcing it to die in the perfect spot to spread its spores. They basically become puppets, moving exactly where the fungus wants. Fossils show this has been happening for at least 48 million years. And it isn't just ants. Some versions of this fungus attack moth larvae or baby crabs. Just another example of how horrifying nature can really be. In the Salish Sea off the coast of Washington and British Columbia, researchers spotted something they hadn't seen before. Killer whales were using seaweed to groom each other. That's a little cuter than some of the other stuff on the list. Apex predators were biting off sections of bull kelp, balancing it on their noses and then rubbing it between themselves and other whales. The whales seem to use kelp to remove dead skin, maybe parasites, and it's mutual. One whale will actively help another. Researchers call it allokelping. It's the first documented case of marine animals using tools this way, something we usually only see in primates. Darren Croft, one of the scientists involved in the study, said in primates, including humans, touch moderates stress and helps to build relationships. Using kelp like this might enhance this experience, end quote. It's pretty strange though. These whales have been studied for decades, but they only noticed this like last year. Michael Weiss, the study's lead author, said it really shows that these whales have so much to teach us and that we are still just scratching the surface of their lives and behavior. All that said, I've been your host James, and I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.